Good evening. So, welcome again. This will be the second time I've done this speaking for kind of a follow-up for the newsletter and a way to kind of connect beyond just the words that we have and that. And I like to be able to see people's faces, hear their voices, feel like we're creating a community. So I really hope that I can make this something that happens on a regular basis, at least once a month, and that we can feel like we're creating this community of people that are really focused on helping horses and really helping ourselves understand them better. So this is going to be a little bit of the theme, and if you read the November newsletter, you get a gist for the topic for today, which is about being quieter. And in that way, a lot of times people who are working with horses, they think of being physically still as being quiet. And that may be part of it, and that may be a way you learn to start to be quieter in your mind. But what I'm really talking about is being quieter and stiller in your mind, and maybe being more focused on one topic instead of so scattered and distracted like we are in our normal human living space. So to start out today, I really wanted to go over again some terms that I use in the sacred space, and I think this kind of maybe expands a little bit about what I'm doing. And I talked about it at the Warwickshire Summit several years ago when I was doing my talk, and I found during that summit that it was pretty noisy, especially for somebody like me who may actually be a little bit neurodivergent. I mean, I don't like categories, I don't consider it that, but I'm very highly sensitive, especially to noise and a lot of big crowds, and it makes it hard for me to focus. And I felt like everything was building in that space, and it was like there was so much noise, and I was becoming really overwhelmed. And I got up, and what I was originally going to talk about, I just threw it out. And I'm like, I think what I need to talk about is how we need to be stiller, quieter, not so focused on all the movement and all the fancy things that are happening and all the words and all those kind of things. We need to be stiller sometimes and quieter. And so I brought up at the end of the speech, I talked about Dr. Doolittle, and I've brought this theme up many times, but it's kind of that overarching thing that I think about when I'm doing this work is that, as a fictional character, Dr. Doolittle could speak to the animals because he was quieter. Doolittle. I don't think there was any mistake about the author picking that name for his main character, because he actually probably knew how we did communication with animals. It wasn't because we were doing more techniques, more noise, more words. It was because we were becoming quieter in our mind, and therefore we could begin to hear these animals. So with that thought in mind, and always keeping the thought of Dr. Doolittle. And it kind of brings me to that place of another thing that I talked about in that talk at the summit was that everyone was discussing connection with horses and getting deeper connection with horses. And it was all about connection. And I was thinking about that word connection, and I thought, if I were to ask people what that means, we'd probably get a lot of different definitions. Okay, so somebody might think of connection with their horse is, well, when I ask my horse to do something, it does it. So therefore I have connection. Or I'm standing next to this horse and it's quiet, and so therefore we're connected. And for me, connection is an ambiguous term. It could mean deep connection. It could mean just a physical proximity to something. I'm connected. Or I've got a lead rope that connects me to that horse, or I've got reins that connect me to their mouth. All of those things don't mean anything to me. And what I really am looking for in this sacred space is something more than that word would give me the idea about. It would be communion. And this is on, I think, the very first page of my book. I'm going to look here. There's 2 pages before, and then on the 3rd page into my book, there's a definition. And this is what I'm looking for. It's communion. And the definition of communion is the sharing or exchanging of intimate thoughts and feelings, especially when the exchange is on a mental or spiritual level. So that is what I'm looking to do. That's the focus of all the work that I do, is that emotional, mental, spiritual communion. And that's the deepest that you get. For me, that's the deepest. And that's what I crave with the animals that I step in with, is that I don't want to just have them do what I ask them to do, or, follow directions or something like that. I want to get to the heart and soul of that horse and really start to understand them. And when I do that, it's so interesting that when I step in and I really want to go deeper with a horse and I get in that space, that, wow, sometimes they're kind of astonished or confused, because people don't usually do that. But then when they realize that I'm truthful about it, they respond in spades. Like, I'm going to talk with you. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to connect at that communion level, not just at I'm next to you. And so, thinking of this too, it's frustrating to me, because a lot of times what people are doing is they're bypassing that, because first of all, they can't do communion because they can't get quiet enough in themselves. And so therefore they can't have the communication, and the horse doesn't understand them. And so what they're having to do is more physical tools. So they're relying on the physical tools, when in reality, if they were to become quiet and learn how to listen to the horse, they could start to have less need for those physical tools. They'd almost become obsolete. And there's times now, as I've been working on myself, this is another theme of the sacred spaces, is working on ourselves, that I'm training myself to be quieter all the time, to be more open to hearing things that are happening around me. And that means the energy field. That means what the horse is saying. And I want to actually clarify too, in terms of, I haven't overtly told people that I'm an animal communicator, and I don't know that I identify with that term. And I don't think of it as animal communication in the way that people think of that, because a lot of times people think, well, that animal communicator uses a lot of words when they tell me what's going on with my horse. They use these words, and I don't rely on words. I'm full body communicating with that animal, which means mental, emotional, energetic, and the absence of any words. In fact, words trip me up sometimes, because I'm having an experience standing next to a horse, getting information from them at a deep communion level, right? At that communion level. And now I've got to interpret that and translate it into human words that people can understand. And that's a challenge, because that feeling, that immersion with an animal in that communication style that I do is complex. And any words I use are going to fail to gather all of the experiences that I'm having with that animal. And so what I would really hope that I can teach people or send them on that path is, like, when you decide that you're going to full body communicate with an animal, full body, soul, beyond, whatever, that you're going to have an experience that you can't explain to somebody else. Okay. And I'm just going to insert a little story here and I don't know if Jackie is on here, and we'll go more into her story later on, but I was working with her a week or so ago, and her one horse came over, and it was saying that it wanted to go deeper. It really wanted to go deeper in the communion space, and she started out quite a distance away from me at the beginning of this session, and so I started talking to her, and I started getting into that space where I'm quiet and I'm listening to her. And a lot of times what I'll do, especially if people are there, I'll throw out words. I'll say a sentence, "Are you feeling this?" Or I'll talk to the horse, and I'm going to be watching that horse for its reaction to what I'm saying. So you'll often see the horse blink or nod or do something that would indicate that they are in agreement with a statement that you made or you thought. Okay, and so this helps me with my communication. I'm watching this horse, and as I'm talking about some things, almost imperceptibly, this horse is getting closer to me. Her head is down, and she started probably 5 or 6 feet away, and then pretty soon she's right in front of me, very quietly. It was almost like I didn't even notice she made a movement in that direction, and she was standing there, and I was thinking, oh, you're really happy that we're doing this deeper exploration into your life and into what we could do to become better communicators with you. And she really wanted to communicate at a heart level too. And so we were there, and then it was lovely, and she was very relaxed in this. And after the session, it was quite interesting that I got up and a little backstory here. I haven't had a sense of smell since I was probably 10, 11. I think I had an accident on my ice skates. I was going too fast and kind of had a little wipeout. And I'm attributing that to my lack of sense of smell, but I haven't had it for decades. I can smell up close. I can smell once in a while, but it's very sketchy there. So anyway, we're kind of finished with the session, and I got the most intense smell of strawberries. And I thought, God, this is so odd for me to have such an immersive sense of smell, and I'm just enjoying it because it's lovely. This essence of strawberries, and I'm looking at the person going, I don't know where that's coming from. It's so weird. And so we're both, she goes, I smell it too, and it's really strong. And so we're doing this exploration around the space. And what was very interesting is that as we walked out of that general location that we were doing this session, it smelled like a normal place. Like for me, nothing. And only in this little radius around us was this intense smell of strawberries. And I'm like, I wonder what that is. I don't know what that means. So we're done, and I go in the house, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to Google what is the spiritual meaning of the smell of strawberries. Quite astonishing. It was a divine message and about the heart. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I don't even know how to categorize that, because here are two people that experienced a physical smell of strawberries, and there was no explanation for it other than we went to a different place, a deeper place, the communion place, and that was what we found there. So, I want to throw out this story because I think what has happened to us in the horse world is that, especially me as a scientist, I was afraid to say things like that before. I was afraid to tell those stories because I thought, oh, they're just going to think I'm nuts. And now I just don't care, because that kind of experience cannot be taken from me. It cannot be taken from that horse. cannot be taken from the other person, Jackie, who was in that space. We all experienced this divine communication. And look, it came through a sense of smell, something I don't have, which I found fascinating. So I just want to say, if we hadn't been able to be quiet, to go deeper, to find that communion space, we never would have experienced that gift that horse had for us, the essence of strawberries that she can emit. So, I think I tell these stories too, and I think there's a part of me that says, you know what, if somebody thinks I'm nuts, then I think they should go find another place to be, because I'm tired of not being myself, of hiding certain things that happen because of potential ramifications, either to my personal or professional career. And now is a time that we start to talk about these things and to really look at our horses as more than just the physical being that they are, but that they are our spiritual guides. They are our spiritual teachers, and they have a whole lot to share with us if we can get quiet. So I just wanted to kind of talk about that thing, and we can talk about that quiet space. And I was telling Dr. Ebb this morning that for some reason something came up. It was a short clip from somebody, I think it was on YouTube, and I just hit the button. I'm like, oh, what's she talking about? And it was really related to this topic of quiet and how we demonize quiet in our society. So this person was talking about, I think, Oprah and Gayle King and their relationship, and something about, well, when they're in a car driving together, Oprah was saying that you're not allowed to listen to music. And this commentator was saying, well, that's ridiculous. How could you be in a car and not listen to music? What's wrong with that person that needs quiet? And I'm like, whoa, that's what we believe about the quiet. It's bad. We have to fill up every space with noise. But what happens when we fill up the spaces with noise is that we fail to be communicating with ourselves or with, let's say, another person or our horses, dogs, cats, whatever animals, environment. We can't hear those intuitive voices that are speaking to us because we're drowning them out with this noise that we create. And why are we uncomfortable when it's quiet? I think that was one of the questions I posed in the newsletter. Are you uncomfortable when it's quiet? And why? Why would you be uncomfortable when it's quiet? Is it because hearing your own body or your mind or your own thoughts scary or disturbing or I don't know. And I think this is something that you can explore here. It's like, if I don't like quiet, what's wrong? What does that mean? Because if you want to do the sacred spaces and the communication like what I'm talking about, it requires quiet. Because when I hear those horses speak to me through all of my senses, through my mind, through my visual field, all of those things, I would miss them if there was noise, if there was external noise. So when we look at society in general, and, I talked about people going on vacation in the newsletter, and they're even noisy on their vacation. It's like, why do they want to drown out the world? Maybe it's worth it. Well, that was a dumb question. Yes, we probably all want to drown out the world, right? But why do you want to drown out your own voice? Why don't you want to listen to yourself? And is it because you're uncomfortable with the person that's in there? And this is this is a deep topic here. What I've seen with horses too, they get busy and they get loud when they're not comfortable in their bodies, right? And so, this is kind of an epidemic, I believe, that we need noise. Noise is distracting us, and if we don't have noise, we create it. So, with that said, I think I'll let Dr. Ebb, because she had some comments about her trip to New York, and perhaps there's some things she'd like to add about the noise and maybe seeing this in action a little bit. So take it away, Dr. Ebb, if you like.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Um, yeah, I like many of us, I live in a very quiet place. Even though I'm in Southern California, we are three-quarters of a mile up a dirt road and off a little two-lane highway, and it's very quiet here. So I think that my set point for noise is much quieter than maybe it was 20 or 30 years ago. But I recently traveled to New York City to visit my son, and wow, um, the difference was overwhelming. I found that truly there was no quiet at any point, day or night. And the lights and the activity and the people rushing past constantly and all of the busyness, that the energy just felt really frenetic. Um, and I guess I hadn't been in New York City in about 20 years, and I had forgotten just how much of an assault on the senses a place like that can be. So after 3 days, I was very happy to escape to a little bit quieter environment. But it was a real reminder for me about how much I've come to appreciate and need the quiet, because that's not how it would have been for me when I was young. I lived in more urban places. I kind of enjoyed the energy and the activity and the go, go, go attitude. And maybe it's being older, maybe it's just having gotten accustomed to the quiet of living in a rural place. But yeah, it was very different. And I think I've always been kind of aware of energies, but much more so since my work with Dr. Susie, and the energy in the city just felt really difficult. Um, I don't know. Uh,
And to kind of add to what you said, it's we have to think about our own nervous system and how overwhelmed we are with noise. Even though you've become habituated to it to a
mhm.
certain degree, depending on where you live, it's still affecting you. And I think I wanted to point that out in this last newsletter. But I also want to talk about, how is it affecting our horses? And what are the behavioral responses that happen when you're overwhelmed by too much noise or physical activity? If your nervous system is not designed for that type of environment, it's excruciating. And so I see so many things that are happening behavioral wise with horses, and actually physical and all those other things, but um, that are caused by this constant activity. And the nervous system has no opportunities to reset and to get back to some semblance of normal. And gosh, I see so many horses that it's just so loud. And I'm talking loud in activity, loud in noise, loud in energy. And there's no opportunity for them to reset or to come down from that. And so they're always in a sympathetic nervous system, a sympathetic state, right, in their nervous system of the flight, fight, or freeze. And so, can we speak to them when they're in that state? No. It's going to be so much harder to get through to them when they're in that state. That's why I'm always saying, let's get the horses in the optimum place where they're quiet, they've self-regulated, and all those kind of things that now we can teach them, or now we can do something to communicate with them. And that's kind of missing in a lot of places that I see. It's like horse training methods that are like, it's just busy, and it's a lot of techniques being used and expectations from the horse, but the horse is never given a chance to come down from that. And they're in that state of stress the whole time. Not good. And it's not conducive for learning. And so this kind of gets to one of the other questions that I was posing of that old paradigm in the horse world was that you need to repeat, repeat, repeat with horses many, many times. And the reason you have to is because you're not teaching that horse when its mind is quiet, when its body is in a parasympathetic state, and there's no retention of that information. Or if it's really stressful, there's retention of the information that caused the stress. So like almost like a PTSD response from the horse. So it's really critical here that we start to look at how are we teaching our horses? How busy are we when we're teaching the horse? And this is another thing that I'm really stressing when people come to my gatherings, is that we really start to slow everything down as far as the teaching process. And people go, well, the horse already knows how to lead. And I say, well, the horse knows how to be led around. It knows how to be obedient. But does it know how to actually lead itself and be in a partnership with you without constant correction or manipulation on your part? And when I take away the inside hand, which is the one we lead with usually, and I tell people you have to take your inside hand off of that lead rope and then cross that rope across your body and walk, you're going to see how often the horses do not know how to lead without a physical cue. They're not really even connected, and they're definitely not in communion with the horse, because once you're in communion, the need for a lead rope is gone, because you're communicating telepathically, energetically. And so, here's that thing too. It's like, think about things like, there's a new word. It's called liberty. And I want you to be really careful when you look at people teaching liberty. Is it really liberty, or is it trained obedience? Is that horse really truly connected, or does that person need to do a lot of physical things to keep that person there? And so I just want you to look here, and be critical thinkers and observers of the techniques and the things that are being done. I'm not saying anything is wrong. I'm okay with people doing liberty that way if that's satisfying to them. But for me, it's not satisfying, because to me, it doesn't really mean liberty if I'm actually, coercing that horse some way with my body or signaling them to do it. I'm going to change from my communication style from physical to mental, emotional, thought-based communication. And that's my goal as you come in this space, is that we get to that place. And that's really what I see as the paradigm shift, is that we start to use less physical and more mental, emotional, energetic. Okay. But that transition time is going to take some time, and it's hard to let go of old habits and those kind of things. So, be gentle on yourself, but start to be aware of How often do I just go about doing something and I don't mentally prepare the horse? I don't emotionally prepare myself. I don't have a plan. I just move. And there's noise going on in my head that the horse can't make sense of. So again, I'm just throwing out some things to think about as you're evaluating different methods and different techniques that people use. Is it an assumption that that horse is not competent and cannot hear what you're thinking, doesn't know how to communicate nonverbally? Or is there an assumption that, yes, the horse can understand me if I can become quiet, clear, concise in my communication? And that means that my thoughts, my emotions, and my energy are all in alignment with what I'm saying to them energetically. The more you get all of those things um, under your awareness, the clearer, the faster the horse does that thing. It's almost like sometimes now when I go to demonstrate something, I'm like, okay, I'm going to demonstrate the thing the horse shouldn't be doing. It's like they're reading my mind to such an extent that it's hard to even teach sometimes anymore because the horse is already doing that thing, and it's like, oh wait, you're supposed to show the opposite of that. And it's not that I'm any different. The only thing that differs in me is the amount of time and effort and consistency that I put into learning this, because I didn't used to be able to do it. That's why I'm here, is I'm saying everybody can do this. Here's the recipe. Here's how you get there, and you can do this. And once you believe you can, that's the next piece of this. If you believe that you can do it, it's going to make it stronger. Okay? So don't be discouraged. There's a lot to this paradigm shift. As we're shifting, we're having to let go of old ways we thought about doing things and adopt new ways. And those ways don't have a lot of information there about what it looks like. And so you're kind of going on blind faith. Oh, well, I'm going to listen to what she says because I don't know, doesn't make any sense. But those of you who are experimenters, who are scientists at heart, will go, yeah, I'm going to experiment with this. I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, why is it not working? Those are parts of being a scientist. If it didn't work, why not? What would I have to change? And really, the fundamental thing that we have to change is ourselves. Because the horses are already very adept at energetic communication, mental communication, all of those things. We are the ones that are deficit. We don't know how to do it. Or I want to rephrase that. We forgot how to do it. We all have the ability to do it. We just forgot. So hopefully I'm here to say, this is a hard place that we're at here. It's like going into this new way of thinking and doing, and there's not a lot of roadmaps that show us the way there. So we have to be gentle on ourselves. I'm going to, to the best of my ability, point out the things that you need to work on that will bring you to this place where you start to have communion with a horse. And that was the whole focus of my trip to Mexico, was to write out all of the skill sets that you need to learn to become this energetic equestrian in the new place. And guess what? It's very heavy on what we need to do. Horse already can do a bunch of it. And some of the things they can't do are because we impose different things and cause trauma in them, so they have to let go of that before they can communicate effectively with us. So with that said, let me see if there was another question here. It's really talking a little bit about being clear in our communication with the horse. Slow down, be quiet, make a plan in your head, marry that with your emotions, and then communicate to the horse. And then you'll use a subtle cue to wait for them to learn it. So again, if you want to learn how I do this, you can always make a an appointment with me or come to a gathering or something, and then you'll see this in person and how it actually works. Um, there's also that idea that in the old paradigm that we didn't give horses sufficient time, in my opinion, to process something new, to process the information, to process something that they're learning. And so my thing now is that if I show them something, I've broken it down into the smallest component. Can they do that? Do I give them time to integrate, process, and learn that in a quiet and in relaxation? And then most likely they're going to retain that better. Okay. And kind of gone from this paradigm, and my paradigm is it just has to get done right now. That's about a bunch of people, and that's what we've been programmed to believe, that the horse has to do what we say when we say it and immediately, no matter how old they are or how, you know, how confusing we may be in that. So again, there's things that we need to reconsider in how we deal with the horse, because I'm going to step into their body and their mind and say, wow, I don't understand what this confusing, loud human with all of those thoughts running through their head, I don't know which one of those to pick out of there and do. And so I'm going to take a wild guess, and oh, guess what? I picked wrong and I got in trouble. That's what the horse is thinking. So maybe I shouldn't listen to their mind because it's all over the place. Okay, so this is some of the anxiety I'm seeing in horses because people are not clear, and then they ask too quickly and they expect too much from the horse initially, and then the horse loses its confidence. So I know this got a little bit off topic here, but any of these things I'm going to write about more in my book, and how you do this and what you're thinking about in terms of training, so that we can get horses that are relaxed and are our partners and that we can commune with, and that they will do those things because they want to do them, not because we make them do that. And that's the big difference. Again, I don't necessarily, when I'm working with a horse, I don't take no for an answer. You know, when the horse says no through resistance or something, or refuses to do something, when I see that come up, I have to ask myself, what didn't I explain to that horse? Why is that horse saying no to me? And what could I do as a human to explain that better, to make him want to say yes? Absolutely, I would love to do that with you. And that's what I think fundamentally horses want to do, is say, yes, I'd love to do that with you. And all this thing of always being resistant, or he's, rude or something like that. No, those terms are gone from this new paradigm. I don't use terms like that. If a horse is rude, I'm going to go back and go, where did he learn rudeness from? And why did I label that as something rude? Or is that just a behavioral response to something he didn't understand? Is that anxiety? Is it, so I'm going to go through a lot of different things when I see behaviors and determine what is the underlying cause of that, instead of just ultimately labeling it as something and then punishing the horse for it. Okay, so with that said, what we can do is, I think there's a bunch in the chat, and I'll have Dr. Ev. She's got her hand up for a while, and I totally ignored her. Did you notice that? She has her little hand thing there, and oh well, I get to it eventually. So with that said, if anybody has questions related to anything we talked about today, go ahead and put that in the chat, and I'll have Dr. Ev kind of review that and see if there's anything that she would like to bring forward here. And she's reading here.
I don't see any questions in the chat, but now that I'm unmuted, I'll just go ahead and jump in here. And I was a public school teacher for 20 years. I'm fine with being ignored. It's part of the job. I'm okay. Um, but what I wanted to add is that this communion is so much easier with my 5-month-old filly than it is with the older animals. I've got a 22-year-old quarter horse that I thought he led beautifully. And we had to work on leading once I learned how to do it the way you teach. Um, but with the filly, it's the only thing she has known with me. Um, so she is coming along absolutely splendidly, leading with the rope in my left hand on my hip and my right hand at my side. And she just thinks this is the way we do things. And it's been really fun and really eye-opening to me to realize how easy it is starting with a baby.
Yeah. And I want to add to that, sometimes people will say, well, I can't do sacred spaces stuff. It takes too long. And I'm going to say that it takes a long time because we have to let go of old belief systems to do something different. We have to learn new ways of doing things. The horse has to let go of trauma, the way he believes interactions with humans happen. And there's just so many things that are clouding that progress, because again, it's not necessarily easy to become aware of your thoughts, your emotions, your energy. That takes practice. And it doesn't happen overnight. And I think back of instructors I had, nobody told me back in the day, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What were your intentions? Because a lot of times, if you watch people working with horses, I wouldn't know what they were intending to do. They just start going somewhere, and that the horse is left going, I don't know what you're doing. Where are you going? What are you doing? And then that horse was supposed to have read their mind, which they probably did at one point, and then go, that mind is like, bleh, so I can't read that. It's just a bunch of scrambled words. What I'm going to do, and I'll just tell you this, a very simple thing with the leading is, first thing we do is stand, and can that horse stand quiet next to you? I'm not going to camouflage the lack of stillness in myself or the horse through movement initially. I go the opposite of a lot of things that are taught. It's like you quiet the horse by moving the horse. No, you just camouflage the underlying problem, which is lack of inner stillness if you do that. I want to start with teaching the horse how to find inner stillness. And I have some different things that I do to get that place, but we usually do that before we do the leading exercise. So again, in the future, I'll be teaching you guys what are the steps to getting that horse to self-regulate and find that inner stillness place. But let's say we're already there, then what I'm going to do when I teach that horse to lead instead of be led, I'm going to be really clear, first of all, what's my intention? Where am I going? I'm going to take the time to decide, where am I going? How fast am I going to go? What direction am I going? What speed? Then I'm going to make a picture of where I'm going, not what the horse has to do, but where I'm going. And then I'm going to make sure my energy is something that a horse would want to hang around with, follow. Instead of like, you have to do this. This is what people do when they get into their mode of teaching horses. You have to do this. Now they're all serious. Horses will shut down immediately when you're serious. You probably noticed that. Do kids have to do that? Look back when you're watching kids work with horses. They don't get serious. They play with it. So when I'm walking, I'm teaching the horse something. I have a light attitude. I don't want to be serious all the time. So those are the three things. I know where I'm going. I made the intention. I followed through with it. I made a picture. There's clarity. There's not confusion in that. The horse can follow that. And I take 2 steps at a time so that I can start teaching the horse within 2 steps. I can keep my focus, my direction, and all that, my speed. The horse can start to connect with, oh, when you make that intention, when you make that picture and you follow through, it means something. But he's not getting in trouble if he doesn't, because that rope is on the outside hip and he hits the end of that rope if he doesn't come with you. And I'm not using this inside hand to correct him. He's got to figure it out. And I give him time to figure it out. And when he does, and he shows up over here next to me, I go, that was fabulous. And I praise him for the good thing that he did. And he goes, wow, I thought, I used my brain, I thought, I followed her directions, and I got praised for it. Wow, that's really fun. Instead of, I tried to follow directions, I didn't do it right, and she corrected me. How much motivation does that build? After so many corrections, you lose your motivation to do something. That's where we're at. And then you got to motivate with a flag or a stick or your rope or something like that. And a lot of times it makes, when we don't let the horse think, it makes them lazy. Because they go, you know what? If I don't do it, you'll get busy, you'll do something to me, and I can pretty much take anything you do to me. But there's almost like a game sometimes. Yeah, well, I'll just wait and see what she does if I don't do that thing. And look at people getting busy. Again, this is another example of being loud. They get busy when the horse doesn't do something. And then they start doing a bunch of correction behaviors. The horse is like, you're, who's the fool here, right? Who's the one doing all the work? You. And I don't have to take responsibility for me. Okay, and so this is something to kind of think about here in that paradigm, because it's really challenging how, like, it's challenging how I was taught to deal with a horse and teach it things, but it's probably challenging your belief about what has to be done to train a horse to be safe and a partner, right? So again, as we delve deeper into these things at this beginning phase and with the newsletter, I'm just throwing out some ideas for you to start thinking about and watching and observing so that you're gathering information on how do different people do these things and what is really happening. Is it getting through the horse? Is it not? Okay. So part of being a scientist, and when I was a researcher, part of my job was to write a literature review at the beginning of a study. And that literature review was about looking at all the alternative theories that were out there and evaluating them for how valid they were, what, if, you know, what was the evidence for those theories and all that, and then compiling the list of pros and cons for different theories into one big, essentially, literature review, and then deciding, okay, based on all of that evidence, how am I going to proceed? What is the way that I want to think about this? Okay, and I think it's really critical for everybody here to do that same kind of thing with all of these different theories of training horses and different models that are going on. Sit back, observe them, look at what, again, feels right to you. Why does it feel right? You know, what are the downfalls? Are there any in that method? Is that method a busy method? That's what I'd like to add to that. Is that a busy method? Do I want to work that hard? And my way that I'm coming into this is like, I'm getting older. I'm losing my physical abilities as I age. I mean, it's normal. I don't feel like it a lot, but it's like, I would like to do this when I'm 100 or over. Okay, so what do I need to do? I need to strengthen my mental, emotional, and energetic body. because my physical skill set will be less. So when I'm evaluating different ways of doing it, I'm going to look at my longevity, my ability to do that in the long term. And this is why I do the sacred spaces stuff and the energy, is because I can do that forever. And I'm actually going to get better at it as I get older. And the more I practice, I'm going to get better at it. Every year I'm like, oh, I'm not sad that I practice this stuff because now I'm better at it. You know? And if you're somebody that goes, I don't want to practice that stuff, then you should go and do a physical based training method. Okay? That's how you make your evaluations. Okay, that's not for me. I don't want to work that hard on myself. Okay. So just kind of finishing up here, and how the breathing fits into this is that the breathing is my way to quiet my mind, to become more aware of my body, to begin to communicate energetically, telepathically with that horse, to clear my mind. If you go on the breath class, there's all these things that breathing method that I use is good for doing. So, people are always going, well, what other things? It's like, do the breathing. The stillness is where you have to find the beginning of this. That's why I called the breathing the foundation for all of this work, is because you have to start there. And, you could do other breathing methods, but I'm going to say if you want to work with the horses and the energy, I studied that breathing method for probably more than a decade. I didn't even put it in my book because I wasn't sure I hadn't gathered enough data yet on it. Okay, is it going to work the way I want it to work? So sometimes studies take decades. Those are longitudinal studies. They take decades to gather information and keep looking at, where's the hole in this? What do I need to change? Is this going to work consistently for everybody? And so that's where, again, if you want to start somewhere, start there. I'm not saying, I'm the worst. Again, I always admit this at selling things, but I think the breathing sells itself once you do it because it works, and I get pretty instant communion with a horse through the breathing. Okay, so but it does take practice. So, Dr. Ebb, you can kind of finish up here and then let me know if anybody else has questions in here.
Yeah, I put my hand up again because there are a couple questions in the chat now. Um, so Rose asked, I feel like I have lost some of the communication with Champ. I had it so he would follow me, no halter, etc., forward, backward. His owner passed away, and a year later I come out and care for all the horses on weekends. Do you think it is because a lot of my time is now spent trying to do chores and I am not communicating like I used to? I am also going through trauma therapy and perhaps my mind is not quiet. PTSD, fight, flight, etc. Champ turns his head away from me but is quite quiet and enjoys once I do groom him.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot to go through, Rose. God, I just got the emotional charge off of that one. Whoa, that's a lot. Don't be hard on yourself. And one of the things that I often tell the horses is that, whatever this is that's going on in me, you don't have to take that on. It's not your responsibility. And, just at least give them permission. And again, you can, if that horse is pretty balanced, they'll be able to deal with that. I think sometimes we just have to give them permission not to hold our stuff. And people go, well, how do you do that? And that's that logical mind going, oh, well, I got to do all this other stuff to convey that information. No, just state it. Get quiet for just a moment, state it, and feel it. Embody that statement that you're making to the horse, and they'll pick it up. So you don't have to make it really complicated. I think Dr. F can attest to, the study that we did together here with horses and words, and it's like the word is really inconsequential. It's really the feeling, the intention behind that makes the impact, and the horse knows what we're saying. Absolutely knows what we're saying. And even on her horse in the study we didn't see a physical change in his body that would indicate he was understanding a word differently or a statement differently than another one. But there was some readouts that showed us, yes, he was understanding it at a way different level. So be heartfelt, genuine, and tell him what's going on. Yeah. And be gentle on yourself as you work through this. And I think you made the statements. It's, yes, probably the trauma is clouding the relationship. That's why I'm so interested in the horses, and can we go through a process that helps them release some of their trauma so that we can have closer communication and it's not polluted, or there isn't that static that prevents us from really deeply communicating what we're trying to them. So my heart goes out to you. I know, Rose. So it's like, yeah, just be gentle with yourself, Rose, and keep working on the things you're working on. And really, all of us, we don't get through life without trauma, and some of it hits us harder. And there's times in our life when it hits us harder. And again, the person that needs to be gentle on us first is us. Yeah. So thank you for being here, Rose. Thank you because I know your heart's in it, and I know it will get better again. And having that heartfelt talk with your horse is often helpful. So I hope that answered a little bit of that. Okay.
Dr. Susie, there are several more questions in the chat.
Okay.
Cindy was asking, let's say if you buy a young horse from good friends and they do the training, but I would like to do the Dr. Fay training and I am 70 years old. How can I do this without insulting them? They are very kind people. And parentheses, Cindy, when my filly is ready for me to back her, I will be 70. So I am absolutely counting on this training to make it easy and painless for both parties. So can you elaborate on that, Dr.
Well,
Susie? How do you balance the training that the friends are doing and your work?
and I think I know Cindy, and I think that the people that are doing the training have a good heart, and I think it should be fine. I'm looking at severe abuse and not allowing horses time to think and develop properly. But I don't see in her case. I think I know who she's talking about, and it's probably going to be just fine. I'm concerned about the people that put a young horse in training, and the expectations are too high for 30, 60 days, whatever that is, and then the horse goes into that space without any. This is kind of, I'm going to pick my words here. I'm going to say social support to help them through those struggles. Let's see how I could explain that. This is that problem between the old training and the new, is that, it's like horses were young, and then it's like you just have to grow up, and all of a sudden they're being expected to do all sorts of things, but they're not emotionally and sometimes not neurologically mature enough to handle the expectations are being, of the person that's training them. So it gets where they start to become less confident in themselves. But you can moderate that a little bit by being there, doing some other types of things with them that make them feel confident, and having that understanding. And Cindy, you can go and talk to them, the horse, and tell her it's like here's what's happening, and I'll be here to support you. And, just like a person was. It sounds a little nutty, but I think this is where we're at here with this paradigm shift, that we're not in the ideal situation yet where we help that horse develop a skill set, emotional regulation, mental strength, all of those things it needs to handle the thing we're going to be asking it to do. And in the interim, we're going to do our best. And some of these things can be, for lack of a better word, fixed later on, as long as there's not really significant severe abuse that's happening. We can get through those. So I think that it should be fine. And I can talk later with you about that. And maybe some other things. I'll think about some other things you can do to help with that. But I think being there, you're probably close enough that you can go and be with that horse in other times so it can develop other types of relationships with humans than just the training relationship. Okay, so yeah, these are hard questions.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I think so. Am I? I don't know. Are you ready?
Okay, Ashling, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, asks how to portray forgiveness to a horse for previous methods used that I no longer feel serve me or the horse. And a comment, very interesting talk. Thank you so much.
Oh.
So forgiveness to a horse for previous methods used.
And I think you can, and she, if it's the one I don't see her come up here. Aisling? Yes, she's in, I think, Ireland. You may tell us differently, but she's just lovely, and her horse has come such a long way. And I think what you can do there with Jeannie is just tell her the truth in your own words, meaning it from your heart. And horses have so much forgiveness in them for our past uh, things that we've done. And it's like it's all water under the bridge to them. As long as you don't go back and repeat some of those things again, that you mean what you say and you say what you mean, and you go forward with it, you just tell her, I'm sorry for the things that happened in the past. I'm doing better. I'm going to do better. And that's really all I tell a lot of the horses that have been through a lot of trauma. It's like, we see that, we hear you, we understand it, and we are going to do our best to do better. And I think that's all we can really do, and hold that space for them to feel heard and seen and understood. And, it's funny because horses to me, are so much easier sometimes than humans, especially in the forgiveness place, that they go, oh, well, that's okay. As long as you're different now. Yeah. And I'm going to do my best to be different. So, a lot of these things I tell you, it seems like, oh, there should be more to it. No, they're pretty much like, yeah, just be truthful. Just be authentic. Everything's good. Okay. Just try. That's all they want from us. Just give it a good try. Try to be better humans. Okay. Anything else, Dr. Ev?
Okay, yes, ma'am. Deanna says, I have a mare and her filly together. The filly, who's 4, seems to bully the mare, who's 13, moves mom off hay, not in a mean way, but seems the mare is not the dominant one. Should I be concerned? There is no fighting, and also the mare seems depressed.
Okay. And we can, there's a lot of different factors in here. What you can do, a lot of times, I don't know that mayor's background because we don't have that, but the mayor may let herself be pushed around because she doesn't feel like she has agency or that she has permission. Sometimes we glorify our little foals. It's like, oh, they can do no wrong, right? And so you guys got to take it. So I would, again, just have a very frank discussion with the mayor. It's like, you can stand up to that baby. You don't need to put up with that. And when you say those words, what I do is I imagine her very gently in my imagination. Here's how you would do that, and I kind of embody the solution for her in my own body, and I show it to her. It's like I would just stand my ground. I would be like maybe put my ears back a little bit and say no and hold your ground, those kind of things, and give her permission to do those things. She may feel like she doesn't have permission to reprimand the baby. Um, so, should you be concerned? Um, if the foal is doing that to you, maybe we need to talk about boundaries so that she understands them, so that she didn't learn them from her mother necessarily. It sounds like so um, that it doesn't concern me deeply, if you want to say that, because there's a fairly easy ways we can get her to understand, like, oh, life has some boundaries and limits. You don't get to just bulldoze your way through everything. But and all the things that I do are pretty. I was going to say nonviolent, it's like more about my mental picture, my emotions, and saying, here's how it's going to be. And again, like with horses with boundaries, I'm going to make a statement. This is my space. I have to be willing to say, how do I manage my space without being aggressive, and teaching that horse that the way to deal with no is with more aggression. No, I'm just going to basically put up a boundary around me, let her hit the boundary, and say, it doesn't trigger me. You got this, but the statement's always this is my space. This is my space. And I don't get angry at him. I don't retaliate, but it's a very firm statement. So I can talk to you, and we'll do more things later on that I can show people how I do those boundaries. And pretty much once you establish them, they go, oh, I guess you're serious. Okay, but the deal is you can't back down, and you can't get triggered into anger or frustration or something like that, because the horse will feed off of that. They may like that energy. And I don't want a horse liking that kind of energy. Okay, so in a nutshell, I know I'm being vague here, but to answer this question would be a big, huge, like, whole seminar, essentially, about how to go about this and what could show up there. But again, I would tell the expectation, the horses, their expectations for behavior from the foal. I would say, my expectation for you is that you honor your mother, let her eat here, whatever it is you want, and make the picture of that. Because sometimes horses do things because they just start doing it. And we have to just change their idea about, okay, let's do something different. And then you tell them what the expectation is and make the picture of it and the feeling of it. Okay. Otherwise, they're just going to do whatever nature where they think they should do. So again, Deanna, we can talk about this in more depth in a session or something. But some of these things, like when we get questions on here, there's so many variables to consider in this type of horsemanship. It's not like, okay, here's the technique you use and it's going to work. It's like, there could be multiple types of ways we could approach this problem, and we're going to have to see what is the feedback I get from the horse when we do a certain thing, and then it's going to lead me to decide how we're going to handle it. So it's gone as the type of horsemanship where you just get them you fix the behavior and it's gone. That never really worked anyway, if you really look at it. It just suppressed that behavior, or it turned into a different behavior. I'm going to look at how do we get to the root of this problem and what's really going on with those horses. And that takes a little more exploration sometimes, and can't really be answered generally. But again, contact me and we can go through some other strategies. So, all right, Dr. Ev, anybody else?
I don't see any more questions in the
Okay.
chat.
All right. Well, This was a lovely Saturday morning for me. I just love to well, we're kind of connecting with everybody here. Um, and I hope to do this in the future. And again, the newsletter is kind of the place where we come and gather and maybe talk about a few things. And in the future, I'll do things that are more in depth so that we can really start to explore these different issues. And part of it is getting my book done so that we can work from there, so that you kind of have a blueprint or a map that shows you, okay, here's the things I need to work on. And if something's going on with my horse, what are the things that I could look at to kind of troubleshoot for myself? Okay, because that's really my goal, is not that you become dependent on me, but that you figure out how to troubleshoot and come up with solutions. Uh, and they all are in alignment with this idea that we are um, becoming better humans and clearer communicators, and hopefully listening to our horses and seeing what they need from us, and then moving forward. Because I think, in this relationship, the way I look at it with the horse is that it's two ways. There's things I need to do, there's things that the horse needs to do for us to have a really good relationship. And so when the relationship falls apart, where does it fall apart? Who's who's in, or both is it falling apart on? And that's where we're going to explore here as we get deeper into this. But thank you all so much for being here, and so much for caring about horses and their welfare. And that's really my focus. I hate to say people come second, but yeah, kind of, because we have more ability to handle, take care of our life. They're in our care, and so we have to be more cognizant of what's going on and make their lives better. So, oh, thank you everybody so much, and we shall see you again. I'm not sure when next month. I've got a trip to Arizona, so perhaps the newsletter comes out a little bit later than normal, unless I can get it done next week, which I doubt it. But I'll be back after the 10th of December, and then I've got nothing on the book, so we can start to explore some different ways to expand this learning in the sacred space, and how we go about doing some of the different things. So with that said, have a wonderful holiday, and I shall see you perhaps next month. Take care, everybody.